There is so much waste, fraud, and abuse happening that we need somebody to really champion this, to expose what's going on.
Multi-billion-dollar industry that is not producing results. That's my problem. I'd be more okay spending a lot of money if you're actually helping the individuals, meaning that slowly over time, the crisis decreases, but it's increasing. As the homeless crisis increases, so does the budget. What's supposed to happen is this, right? The more money you spend, the more effective you are, but we've proven that money is not the solution.
Okay, guys, got Kevin and Jonathan here today. We're going to talk about the homelessness crisis. Really important issue to talk about. And you guys are on the front lines investigating. You were just in the tunnels this morning.
Yeah, we were. We've been in the tunnels the last couple of days. It's just wild down there. A lot of unpredictable behaviors, a lot of drug activity, a lot of mental illness. Yesterday, I got chased by a guy with a knife, thought he was going to cut my neck, had to run through traffic.
Jeez.
Police came, arrested him, very unpredictable behavior. So it's just wild down here. Right now, my feet are still wet because I was wading through water 2 hours ago.
Wow.
Yeah, aside from the actual awe factor of this happening in an American city, the question that we're trying to ultimately get at is, why is this being allowed to happen? Because this didn't happen overnight. It's the worst kept secret, but it's been going on for years now. The so-called mole people living in these tunnels, these drainage tunnels, losing their lives every year whenever it floods down there. You know what it's like. But it was surreal though. At the same time, Kevin and I, we've seen a lot on this beat covering the homeless drug crisis in America, but I've never seen anything like this.
Wow. So Vegas is pretty bad because you guys have been to a lot of cities, right?
Yeah, we've really been to all major cities, and the fact is, it's the worst kept secret. I mean, shocking how many people are living literally below the Vegas Strip. And it's hard not to ignore the fact that we have billion-dollar properties, surface level, and 20 feet below, there's a good 1,000+ people living.
That many?
That's
holy crap.
I looked it up. There, and a lot of the homeless are saying it's at least 1,000 people over several hundred miles of tunnels.
That's insane. And it did rain pretty bad a few weeks ago. So does that, what happens when that?
Well, flash floods are always a risk. I was interviewing a lady yesterday who said she got caught in a flash flood. She was living about a half mile back. Water came out of nowhere. It was a sunny day. So really the water came from somewhere in the mountains, and immediately got 4.5 feet high, going 70, 80 miles an hour. She was one of the lucky ones where it just kind of pushed her out of the tunnel, but she says other people drowned.
Holy crap.
So it's wild. We did go to that same tunnel, and we noticed there was a lot of debris and stuff. So as that happens, you see a lot of soot and, logs and stuff. And so it's just it's pretty wild. And that's the whole point of these tunnels. That's why the tunnels were built, not for the homeless to live.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's the best.
And there's no warning system. No warning system. When it happens, it happens.
Yeah. And do they have Wi-Fi down there? Any service or how are they living?
I was actually
any Starlink down there?
I was texting Choe this morning in one of the tunnels.
Oh, but how deep were you? I mean, that's
about a half mile in. So actually, I had service.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's surprising, but I would not be going down there without any type of backup. We had multiple people with us. We're not going in there just totally alone. You have to go in prepared. You have to be in there with flashlights. What we're trying to do at the end of the day is have conversations with the men and women down there. So, we had a guide first and foremost, giving out burritos, giving out, cigarettes to break the ice and start conversations. And what we've seen down there just so far, it's been less than, 48 hours now, is just a wide array of crime, chaos, and death, unfortunately.
Jeez.
And, we've heard about the allegations of sex trafficking down there. We've heard the allegations of, a criminal enterprise potentially working down there. But what we've seen, at least with our own eyes, is the human suffering and misery. And I think the most frustrating part is that after speaking to at least close to 20 people, they were offered treatment, they were offered detox, they were offered even a pathway into housing, and all of them refused. So in other words, they all said this is their free will choice. They want to live this way, out of sight, out of mind, off the grid. No more taxes, no responsibilities for a job. They just want to be left alone, which also kind of tells you that we have a system here in America that continues to just enable, in many ways, just the welfare system, and they know that.
That is interesting. So they're being homeless by choice almost.
I think the vast majority of them down there, at least the ones we met.
Everyone we've met so far in the tunnels, it's absolutely by choice.
Wow.
Which is interesting. Like, why would they choose this? But as John said, I mean, it is freedom. You know, I mean, I personally would not want to live in the tunnels, but this is them. And, you know, a lot of them will say, you know, we don't want the responsibilities of having a job and barely getting by. I can live here for free and being taken care of because you have enough social services where they're going to be fed every day. People are going to drop off supplies. There are multiple outreach teams and nonprofits that show up to the entrances and just deliver stuff to them daily.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They receive a lot of stuff. I mean, then the argument becomes, at what point does enabling become dependency? At what point do they make it so easy to be homeless? There's no motivation to leave the streets, and that's just something, you know, it's up for debate.
That's something I've been dealing with because I used to get money. Now I don't do that. Now I get food, but now I'm questioning that. You know what I mean? So what's the right approach?
Yeah, and that is that's the $1 million question, because it's hard to know. Because look, food is a basic need, but if you fed the same person 10 years in a row, have you actually helped them? No, right? So I say, like, look, it's a good start. If John and I first meet someone, we're probably going to offer them a burrito or a lunch or something. But then we're going to be like, hey, what's the plan? Are you going to get off the streets? Do you need treatment? What can we do to help you become self-sufficient? Because we want to solve this. We want to help them identify the barriers that led them to the streets or kept them on the streets. Because we believe, truly, this is a solvable crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm reminded every single day I go into these situations when I meet, a young woman or an older gentleman. This is somebody's mother, somebody's father, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. They're a lost soul. So if we look at them through the lens, again, as maybe a family member, I think the public would change their position. And I'm bringing all this up because I think a lot of people like yourself may want to give, think like, hey, I want to donate. I want to help people. And I'm not discouraging that, first and foremost. I want to be very clear. But one of my colleagues in Seattle, Andrea Suarez with We Heart Seattle, another homeless outreach group, she really challenged me and said, Choe, are you just going to be a bystander, or are you also now going to be an outreach worker? Because it's not that hard to take that next step, to ask that simple question, what's your name? How'd you get out here? What can I do to help? Rather than just dropping off clothing or dropping off food. And unfortunately, I think when it stops there with just a donation, the person giving at the end of the day can pat themselves on the back and feel better about themselves. Like, I made a difference. I gave, a homeless person some food or clothing. But what I'm challenging Americans to do, living in these cities where we're seeing the street crisis every single day, is to take that extra step and think, okay, what could I do? What's my responsibility in simply even getting to know somebody on the street to help them get off the street and take that next step?
Yeah, absolutely.
The big lie we've been sold is that the social service system are the ones that are going to solve this, and only they can solve it because they're the educated and experienced, and this is what their job is. But I think they've also shown that, they haven't done the job. Anybody with just a little bit of passion and a little bit of courage can do nearly identical work as a paid outreach worker. It's just really being a people person, talking to them, getting to know them, doing a little research on how to connect these people to services.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think we've just proven, first of all, if money were the solution, we would have solved it by now.
Easily.
And what once was a cause has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, the homeless industrial complex.
Homeless Inc., that's what we refer to all the time, Sean. And I'm especially in places like Washington State, spent billions of dollars for more than a decade. And we've tried strategies like Housing First, a government program where housing providers, essentially give out studio apartments, no questions asked to homeless drug addicts, shove them inside, warehouse them out of sight, out of mind, hoping that they're going to take the next step to treatment, recovery, and maybe find a job and get back on their feet. But after more than a decade, we're realizing and seeing now that Housing First is a failure. And that's why last year the Trump administration, and we applaud the Trump administration for the executive order that essentially is now taking that money from Housing First and putting it into treatment and recovery first. Because what has been misdiagnosed, and that's been the problem on the streets, is that this is not an affordable housing crisis that we're seeing. What's fueling this is mental illness, drug addiction, and broken relationships. So we really have to start getting at the root of the problem if we're going to make a dent in this here in America.
That's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting because I think most people would say it's a housing issue. It's an affordability issue when they look at homelessness.
Well, and John just struck the nail on the head. Is the biggest flaw in Housing First is that it's completely voluntary. There is no buy-in, no expectations of the person when they move into housing, oftentimes for life, subsidized by taxpayers, that they have to make any changes whatsoever to let them in the streets or kept them on the streets. That's the problem. And so what I say about housing first is it really doesn't solve the problem. It just hides the problem. And who's paying for it is us. But they're the only thing different is they have a roof over the head, but they're still the same person.
Right.
They're still an addict. They're still struggling with mental health issues. They could be still up to doing no good. And that's a problem for me. The number one goal, in my opinion, with every single homeless person is to help them reach their fullest potential and hopefully self-sufficiency. And I know realistically that's not going to happen with all of them because of their barriers.
Yeah.
But I still believe it could happen with a good 70% of them.
And a lot of the data that's now even coming out, at least in Washington State, shows that more people are now dying behind closed door of drug overdoses than they are outside.
Wow.
What does that tell you? It shows you that a lot of these housing providers aren't even checking on the men and women who are now doing fentanyl behind closed doors. So they're dying alone. They're ODing alone. There's no one there to help them.
And
this is a total failure of the system.
I've lost more homeless friends the first day they move into housing than in any other time.
No
ever.
way.
And the reason why is it's a little bit of a celebration and a little bit they're alone. Is because now they're in their own apartment and they're there and they're using alone and they're overdosing. They're probably using a little bit extra and they die day one.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is why we need to work on transitioning people off the streets, not immediate permanent housing where they're in their own little space. You know, what I say is shelter first, housing earned. Put them into a communal type program with wraparound care and help them work towards independent living.
With requirements to go into detox treatment, requirement to start looking for a job. And I think the average American who isn't in this space assumes all of this is happening, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we're going to give you an apartment and all these quote unquote wraparound services are all going to be there and then they're going to go through the system and they'll be back on their feet. But that's not what's happening. And that is the biggest, I'd say, deception here. That the only ones at the end of the day that I'm seeing benefiting from this now is, again, are the housing providers. They're making, the high six-figure salaries, some of these CEOs. I mean, what incentive do they have to solve this homeless crisis? Because if they do, guess what happens? Jobs disappear, salaries disappear. So that's what we call the homeless industrial complex.
Yeah.
It's too big to fail. It keeps going and going and going. There's no incentive to end this.
Yeah, because why would they work themselves out of a job? There's no incentive.
Yeah.
So it's as they say, it's easier to treat the disease than cure the disease.
That's crazy. And that's how it gets up to the billions when you look at California, right?
Yeah, your taxpayer dollars, my taxpayer dollars, and at the same time, we have nothing to show for it except, again, a pile of dead bodies, drug overdoses on the streets.
So how does it work in Nevada with no state income tax? Who is trying to fund the homelessness here?
I mean, there's multiple nonprofits here, when we met a couple good people doing good things, but the fact is it's very clear not enough is being done. I mean, it's so obvious just walking the streets and going to the tunnels that there's nowhere near enough assertive outreach to talk to these people and actually ask them, why don't you want to leave the streets? What's going on? Now, I believe a lot of it has to do with this mistrust in the system and enabling to the point of dependency, right? There's got to be some type of motivation to get a person to agree that anything's better than this. I mean, my feet are still wet. My boots are soaked from being in the tunnels an hour ago, right? I mean, it's shocking and hard to imagine why someone want to live in, complete darkness under the Las Vegas Strip. It's just shocking.
Yeah.
And it's the questions we have to start asking, the public needs to start asking.
Yeah, and you asked, where's this funding covering from? At the end of the day, most of the housing to address the street crisis comes from the federal government, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's where most of this homeless housing funding comes from. But we spoke to, some of our colleagues over at Vegas Stronger, an incredible nonprofit that is focused on treatment and recovery first. And, many of their outreach workers go into the tunnels here and extract people and get them on this program, save their life. But one of the leaders told us, in fact, just this morning that, as soon as one of the housing units in Vegas turned into quote unquote housing first, where they started receiving government money, that they start to see more and more homeless drug addicts come into the community because there were absolutely no requirements, again, to get treatment. It was enabling. A lot of these situations also give out free drug supplies.
What?
They give out meth pipes, fentanyl foil, cookers, all on the dime of taxpayers and the federal
What?
government. Yeah, that's what's happening behind the scenes.
It's called harm reduction.
It's called harm reduction. And the reason why you never see this, again, in the public is because it's also not being covered by mainstream media. So we're right now, Sean, in what I believe an insane information war. There are so many stories that are being undercovered that only the independents and, the podcast hosts like yourself can talk about and reveal to the American public. Otherwise, people have no idea what's really happening.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I think just the last year, everyone's obsessed with independent journalists because people are desperate for the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And, we don't really, honestly, really have to answer to many people. We're allowed to just be true independent voices and just share the brutal reality of the streets, and that's very important to us that we get to do that.
Yeah, and that's why both you guys are independent journalists, right? You don't have to answer anyone, which is great.
Yeah, and we have the freedom now to, push the envelope. I worked in mainstream media for 20 plus years, and I look back and I'm like, I'm never going back, first of all. But I'm reminded every single day, a lot of these television stations, and that's my background. I was a TV news broadcaster. I worked for ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the networks pretty much. And I was reminded again, it was a business. So these TV stations would only cover stories that were quote unquote brand safe. In other words, you can't sell, Huggies diapers or Lipton tea next to somebody ODing on the street.
Yeah.
So the only time they would cover the homeless crisis is like on Thanksgiving, right? They would send the reporter, Thanksgiving morning to a homeless shelter.
Classic.
Yeah, and it'd be, oh, hey, look, you got a bunch of people being fed on Thanksgiving, back to you, Bob. But you would never, ever get into the real issues and the root causes of what is fueling this street crisis. And I think that's has now been exposed. And again, platforms like X, so important to see Elon Musk buy that platform, because I don't think we'd be, where we're at today without X.
No, we'd be toast.
Cooked.
Well, and it's the one platform where I'm not censored and I'm not getting strikes and I'm not getting kicked out or having to start over and over and over again.
No Instagram
it's never
jail.
happened to me on X.
Yeah, shout out to X. Well, before Elon, it happened to you, right?
Once, yeah, right before, yeah. It was for something dumb too, but it's never happened since Elon took over.
Right, or we were getting shadow banned, right, where, somebody would type in my name or my handle and they couldn't find me. It wasn't popping up. I'm banned on TikTok.
Same. Just
See?
got banned again, actually.
Yeah, I tried 2-3 times and I got banned because people apparently reported me because I said, transgenders, are men, and I got banned for that.
And I was permanently banned. I had to start over.
You were permanently what?
Permanently banned on TikTok and had to start over, and that was frustrating. I begged them basically. As I had worked really hard on it. I appealed and they said no, so I had to start over. And 6 months out of the year, I'm in Instagram jail.
Really?
So it is what it is. But I wanted to really quickly share. One of the value of the independent journalist is one thing we've been taught, we were lied to, is that all homeless people want off the streets. No one chooses to live outdoors. And that is the big lie, and that's what helped grow the homeless industrial complex. The most profitable piece of that is affordable housing. It's been this multi-billion-dollar industry. Now, Jonathan and I, we went to the tunnels, and again, we spoke to minimum 20 homeless people, and every single person said, I choose to be down here. If that's the case, affordable housing isn't necessarily going to help them, is it? Because they choose outdoors. And that is the lie we've been sold. And this is why there's a value in the independent journalists is we're the counter narrative to the homeless industrial complex.
Yeah.
Of what's really going on.
Because you're actually there.
Yeah.
We're there and we're looking behind us and next to us and in front of us, and there aren't any other journalists down here. Like, first of all, it's a risk. So some people say we're stupid for going down there, but these are the type of stories we have to chase, right? I mean, if we're not showing the raw realities on the streets, nobody would believe us. And that's why, I always say the video don't lie.
Yeah.
We're down there with our iPhones and our flashlights, and we're recording multiple angles. If I transitioned from television into just print reporting, I don't think I'd have the same impact and effect on what's happening out there.
Yeah, people can't visualize it.
Exactly.
Well, videos don't lie, but a few weeks ago, I interviewed a homeless lady who lost her legs during last winter, and I got about 100 comments and said, that's AI.
Yeah,
And
God,
then,
don't
I
get me
thought about it
started.
and I said, AI is so oppressive now. How do I prove this isn't AI? That's what was interesting about it. I was like, my gosh,
Wow.
how maybe I could have removed the legs. I'm not smart enough to do that. But like, I was fascinated that they assumed it was AI.
That's where we're at now.
That like, and it's scary because I'm getting that more and more. Like, that's not possible. And you see AI videos now. Imagine where we're going to be in a year.
Yeah.
It's so good now. They're fooling me now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty techie. Like I'm Asian and I'm in the culture, but dude, they're good now.
And ByteDance came out with that new AI where they're now getting sued by Hollywood because they made that little fake trailer with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting each other.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
People couldn't
Very
even,
impressive.
yeah, people couldn't even tell the difference. I
Couldn't
mean, think
tell.
about how many jobs now are potentially at risk in Hollywood.
A lot of them. I mean, there's already strikes over there about the screenwriting, right? People
Yeah.
writing the scripts.
Well, Kevin, I'd like to think we could not be replaced, with AI or robots.
No,
At least just not yet. So
No, you guys are good. I
I think we're good for
I think Nick Shirley's good for a little bit. Tyler Oliveira.
Well, because again, with AI, with mainstream media, they need people who are boots on the ground showing the truth. Because right now it's hard to know what the truth is. It just is.
Yeah.
And it's so important to just share the truth, whether it's an inconvenient truth and whether it even goes against my own sort of personal bias on things. I'm just going to show the reality.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's so important. I'm a big believer in just showing the world what's actually happening out there and trusting their intelligence to make their mind up what they think of it.
Absolutely. When you guys started investigating this homelessness issue, did you have a bias you were leaning to beforehand?
Well, I have to be honest with you because I come from the world of mainstream media. I always thought it was a housing problem because every time we'd go out there, again, aside from the Thanksgiving stories we'd do, we'd tend to lean toward like an academic who usually leans left. And what they would always parrot are the same talking points. This is an affordable housing crisis. We have to build more housing. And I would parrot that as well, no questions asked, whenever I do a story about homelessness in Seattle. But it wasn't until I really left mainstream media and started really investigating and researching myself at Discovery Institute, where I'm also a senior journalism fellow doing this work, did I see, oh my gosh, nobody is asking about the actual root causes. Because think about it, dealing with drug addiction, mental illness, broken relationships. I mean, that is not something the government can solve right now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if again, anecdotally, 9 out of 10 people on the streets of Seattle, when I asked them, how did you end up here? Was it due to a lack of affordable housing? No.
Wow.
What they're telling me is
no.
they got into a fight with their mom, or their addiction got so bad, my parents kicked me out because they didn't want me to drag down my sister. So until I hit rock bottom and get sober, I have to be out on the streets. Now, don't get me wrong. Homelessness, I want to be very clear, is a wide spectrum. There is no one size fits all. Is there the single mom who, just lost her job, who's clean and sober, who needs a bridge, a temporary housing until she can find a job and get back on the streets or, back to work? Yes, absolutely. And those are the people we should be helping with this type of transitional housing. But the drug addicts, the mentally ill, they need an intervention. And that is the piece I feel like is missing. We don't have the political, just appetite right now to really push for interventions.
And what we need to start doing is stop calling it a homeless crisis and start calling it an addiction crisis and a mental health crisis. I mean, it is overwhelming on the streets. It is a very high percent that are oftentimes struggling with both, right? Portland, Oregon, I would say well over 80% of every homeless person is in the middle of their addiction.
Wow.
It's about 80%
That's
in
hot.
every major city, but the media would tell you otherwise. They'd be like, this is an affordable housing issue. And like John says, there's always going to be that person that got in a tight spot. But I'm talking overwhelmingly, it is an addiction mental health crisis.
And Sean, fentanyl has been the game changer.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, it was crack cocaine. I mean, there are times when
90s meth.
90s meth. I mean, there are times I have some talk to outreach workers on the street. They're like, we wish it was cocaine. We wish these people were doing, just marijuana and cocaine, not this fentanyl. Because, it truly, one pill can kill. And that's what we're seeing.
Jeez.
In some ways, I miss heroin. You know why? Because fentanyl is 50 times, they're both opioids. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and significantly cheaper. Think about that. I mean, it's shocking. Fentanyl changed the game.
Yeah, that's nuts because heroin's already strong. So you're saying 50 times stronger
50
than heroin.
times. Well, and this is why it's led to one of the largest increases of overdose and deaths in history.
And it's so
Shocking.
cheap.
Is it still everywhere?
It's everywhere. On the streets of Seattle, we have these little blue pills laced with fentanyl called like M30s, right? Also
war on
known as
drugs
blues.
failed.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it depends how you define war on drugs. But I mean, I feel like we need to, re-engage this war on drugs and redefine the terms, right? I'm not saying we just randomly throw people in prison, in jail for possession. I'm saying we do make arrests for repeat offenders, people who can't choose to get sober themselves, and get them into detox, at least temporarily. I'm not for throwing somebody in prison if they have a drug addiction and throwing away the key. That's not what we're talking about. But we've also overcorrected in some of these blue cities dealing with this crisis where we say, oh, no jail. We just need to leave them on the streets. And when they're ready to get better, they'll take that next step. We can't do that anymore.
Yeah, and for people who don't really understand just how deadly fentanyl is, the Center of the CDC, it's even on their website. They show a Lincoln penny, and on that Lincoln penny, they put a few flecks of dust on Lincoln's cheek. That's 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams can kill an adult male.
Wow.
It is minuscule. It is a very, very small amount that honestly, and that's a very common way. It's called hot shotting, how to kill a person on the streets, is they turn their back and someone goes like this to the water.
No way.
And and they get hot shotted, which means it wasn't, they didn't personally intentionally take it. Someone gave it to them.
Wow.
And it's a common way, sadly, to off a person because when it's investigated, oh, it's just another homeless junkie that died of an overdose.
Yeah, they're not going to run an autopsy.
There's no way. Well, even if they would, all they're going to see is fentanyl in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, I'm not as connected here in Vegas as I am, in Seattle, where I do the vast majority of my work. But I invite you. I want to take you out. We'll walk around some of the hot spots in Seattle, like the Chinatown International District. I know where the dealers are. I know which tents, have the dealers. We can buy 100 fentanyl pills, okay, laced with fentanyl for like $50.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
I don't know what the math is on that. Was it like 50 cents a pill?
That's
That-
It's right now averaging with the major cities 50 cents to $1 a pill. And again, a pill is way more than 2 milligrams.
Yeah.
So it can
Way
last you a
more.
while.
Who knows what's in it? That's the problem.
Yeah, you actually really don't know.
Yeah.
And where are they getting it from? Is it from China?
And Mexico.
Well, we now know China creates the precursor ingredients, and the cartels then get their hands on
Oh,
it.
so they're
and-
working together.
Yeah, and they've been flooding the markets. So that's why what Trump did with the border was so vital.
Wow.
I mean, the moment the border closed down, we saw a dramatic, drop
really?
in fentanyl hitting the
Oh, I didn't
streets
know
as
that.
well. Yeah. So, I mean, in places like San Francisco, the Hondurans, I mean, there have been feature stories about the quote unquote Hondos who've made millions of dollars, at the expense of Americans who are now living luxury lives back in Honduras. They're sending the money back home. They're buying mansions. This is crazy what we've allowed here in America.
Yeah, I mean, the price of fentanyl has gone up since Trump took office, right? It's still cheap, but it has gone up. It's getting a
It's
little
still
bit-
cheap. I can still get Sean a good deal if he wants to.
It's still hard. It's getting harder and harder to obtain.
Yeah. And what happens if you get caught with it? Like,
Nothing.
Nothing.
are you serious?
This is what's so crazy. In Seattle, and this is the problem when you don't have the political will, we have a new mayor, Katie Wilson, in Seattle. We also have a new city attorney, Erica Evans. As Erica Evans was running for office, she would say, I am not going to enforce the drug laws on the books. In other words, there are laws currently in Seattle where if you're caught with, fentanyl, you're going to get arrested and you're going to do time in jail for a few days, and you're going to have the choice to go into detox or treatment and otherwise face more severe consequences. Evans, a progressive, said, no, we're not going to do that.
Wow.
So word gets out on the street. Think about that, right? The homeless drug addicts watch the news. They know that Katie Wilson won't push, the Seattle Police Department to really make these arrests for even possession. So the addicts then say, hey, let's all move to Seattle. We can do whatever we want. It's a lawless playground now, and that's what's happened.
And so while it is still illegal, why would a police officer, when they witness it, go through that 2-hour process of booking the person knowing they're going to get released immediately? They're not going to waste their time.
All the paperwork and I mean, yeah, who's going to
It's
do
not
that?
worth it to them knowing that this person charges will be dropped anyway, and then they wasted half a day on
Right.
on a homeless
The
addict.
cops aren't going to arrest them.
It's demoralizing to the cops who
Yeah.
want to clear these neighborhoods. And if I brought you, Sean, I know you're also Asian American.
Yeah.
If you came into these Asian American communities like Chinatown in Seattle, these leaders keep talking about DEI and social equity. But I'm always asking, why are the Asians, getting the brunt of this? It's like, keep the downtown core clear. This is the strategy. Seattle's getting the World Cup. The FIFA World Cup is coming to Seattle in the next 3 months.
Wow.
The strategy is keep the downtown tourist corridors clear, move everyone into containment zones nearby. One of them happens to be the Chinatown International District. Think about all the Asian grandmas and grandpas, the businesses now that are just going under because of this.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's zombie land in Chinatown right now.
Just to maintain appearance. That's what Newsom did in San Fran when the president of China came to visit.
Yeah, suddenly it's all clear. The streets are clear.
Yeah.
Why can't you do this every single day? And Newsom even admits, hey, you got to clean your backyard. This is basically when you have visiting officials like this. So it can be done.
Yeah.
But again, for whatever reason, the Chinatowns in these communities tend to get the brunt of everything.
Wow. So is Seattle the worst one you've seen when it comes to homelessness?
No, actually, funny enough, we were talking about this right out of the 4 major cities on the West Coast. And by the way, the West Coast, no doubt, has the worst overall, homeless drug crisis in America. I think California has the most homeless people. Number 2 is New York, by the way. Number 3 is Washington State. However, out of the 4 major cities, LA, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle that we've covered, Kevin and I were like, no doubt, LA, right?
LA 's
Skid
the
Row.
worst.
Yeah, LA. And, I like to, you think West Coast, I sometimes group in Vancouver, BC, which I've been to, and it's just shocking.
On
what's there.
Hastings, once again,
Shocking.
Chinatown, near the Chinatown in Vancouver, BC.
Yeah. And so, Seattle wins when it comes to the drug crisis. Portland probably has the highest per capita of mentally ill on the streets, but it's just overall West Coast, just, it's a nightmare.
And I want to be very clear, though, new San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, he's actually making a difference.
Really?
Yeah, and funny enough, he's going away from these harm
Is he
reduction
liberal,
strategies. He's a Democrat.
Oh.
But he's a moderate, and he's listening to different voices. People in the recovery community actually have his ear. Because Lurie's a smart guy. He looked at what was happening before he took office. It wasn't working. Why would you double down on stupid?
Right.
So you at least try something different.
Yeah, they're losing a lot of companies in San Fran.
Yeah, we're losing them in Seattle too.
Yeah.
It's a ghost town. We have
And
some
LA.
of LA. We have some of the highest vacancy rates right now in the downtown core when it comes to commercial real estate.
That's a shame because you
Yeah.
guys have the best Chinatown in the country, right?
We definitely have
used
one
to.
of the better ones. Used to, yeah. The University of Washington is now the #1 employer in Seattle. That's because Amazon is now number 2 because Amazon has now relocated its second headquarters to Bellevue. It's right over the bridge, just 15 minutes from Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Because in Bellevue, they actually enforce the law.
Yeah, virtually no crisis there.
Yeah, there's no crisis there.
Wow.
And it just goes to show you, it gets a tale of 2 cities based on government and management and policies.
That's nuts.
It oftentimes comes down to politics and ideology, where you see the worst crisis.
Yeah, people don't think politics affects them, but it does.
Well, the system has turned it into a political issue and an ideological one. And that's why you see the crisis much worse in places like LA, Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, right? Very progressive cities, very radicalized progressive cities.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's weird that the West Coast seems to have way more.
Way, way more.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the weather helps too, right? I mean,
Right.
you're not going to see this type of street crisis necessarily like in downtown Chicago where it's like,
too cold,
It's
yeah.
too cold. Minneapolis, you'll see, pockets there, but it gets down to minus
But
30.
we're also sanctuary cities. The homeless are attracted to these communities. Oregon, we are the first state to decriminalize drugs, and we kept it decriminalized for about 3 years, which just created this massive inflow, which the day that happened, I was like, oh my God. And it was like, I had a crystal ball. I knew what was going to happen. And I predicted, sadly, correctly, it was going to lead to the largest spike in overdoses and deaths in state history. I mean, imagine allowing a free-for-all of drugs, specifically fentanyl, to people who lack rational thinking and critical thought, which are homeless, mentally ill people, the freedom to use as much as they want legally. I mean, it was shocking what happened. Now, we did finally recriminalize, but the damage was done.
Oh, I didn't know Oregon recriminalized.
Yeah, it took about 3 years.
So you can't do mushrooms anymore over there.
Well, that's a different story. We're still very pro mushroom.
I'm on a microdose right now.
But
I love them.
Is this
Those are natural.
psilocybin?
Psilocybin, yeah.
well,
Psilocybin,
I'm a
sorry.
believer in that.
Yeah, those aren't drugs.
Psilocybin.
No, and I've microdosed before. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't even classify mushrooms as a drug.
No.
It's all natural. It grows on cow shit, actually.
Yeah, just recently, President Trump reclassified marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3.
Yeah.
Which I say thank you.
Oh, you like that?
Well, yeah, because because for the longest time, fentanyl was grouped in with marijuana, which
That
is
makes no
completely
sense.
insane.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And so
at
I
all.
think that's a very good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of marijuana, to be honest. What do you guys think about it?
Well, look, comparatively speaking, marijuana is 100 times easier to take care of. But yeah, I mean, personally, I don't smoke whatsoever. I think it's not really healthy
I used to be
whatsoever.
a huge stoner, actually.
Well, and so was
Massive.
I as a kid.
Yeah, I think everyone was.
but-
Well, just to be clear, I've never done pot,
Oh,
by the way.
what?
I've got a lot
What?
of secondhand. Yeah, I'm going to say
No.
this on the record right now. If somebody has any evidence of me smoking a joint or doing marijuana,
I was
please
a-
show me. But
I was a stoner when I was younger, and yeah, now I have zero interest whatsoever.
It's too strong now.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I
terrifyingly
get
strong.
anxiety on it. It's
look,
terrible.
and here's why I'm also hesitant to even try marijuana at this point. Because, and again, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying this is all strains of marijuana, but
Yeah.
I've covered stories now where where you have young men who are doing too much marijuana, whatever strain it may be, and they're developing psychosis. Basically,
Yeah.
they're going bonkers.
That's what happened to me, dude.
Okay,
It's-
so
it's
then you
too
can relate.
strong now.
Yeah, and I'm like, how did it get to this point?
Yeah,
Right?
I
It
get
was-
crippling anxiety.
yeah, you thought that it would be now regulated more, and it'd be better stuff would be accessible. But when you're seeing the end result here, I mean, to some of the men and women out there after smoking marijuana, I'm like, I just have never
Yeah.
been a fan.
And I just think with the mental health crisis right now, adding in marijuana to that is not going to help.
I mean, one can argue, even though it's hard to say marijuana is a gateway drug for how strong it is, it very likely leads to heavier drugs.
Agreed.
Because I'm older and I used drugs back in the day when it wasn't nearly as strong. It was pretty easy to handle.
Yeah,
If
so
anything, it
easy.
was weak.
Yeah, if anything, you needed like pounds of it.
We called it shake. So we called it shake. It was Mexican shake and it was crap. And now
Exactly.
it's like terrifying, that sticky stuff, and it's like, ugh.
I know people that say marijuana is stronger than certain psychedelics now.
See,
That's
Wow.
how
That's
powerful
crazy.
it is. Yeah, because it's like 30% THC.
That's crazy.
So you'll start hallucinating on some of it.
That doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah, I'm good on that. Well, what's the next investigation for you guys? Where are you headed to next?
I mean, look, we'll see what we finally uncover here,
Well, we're
but
going into the tunnels tonight.
yeah, and you're
I
more
won't
than
be
welcome
there.
to come.
No, I'm good.
I won't be
So
there.
we're about to invite you. Listen, it is dangerous. Even what happened to me yesterday, I got chased by a guy with a knife, nearly cut my neck.
Were you
I-
alone or?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, normally I wouldn't have been alone, and
But we got split up. Why?
we got split up.
They wouldn't let me in
Oh, why?
because I'm Asian.
Oh, for real? There's no Asians down there?
It's like stop Asian hate,
Oh, I'm
right?
definitely not going
It
there.
was
Yeah.
a little weird.
It was
and
weird.
So I said, Choe, I'm good. I'll stay. 10 minutes later, I was talking to this guy, and he just shifted. He ran past me, punched his homeless girlfriend, and threw her down like a hill.
Jesus.
And then two other homeless people came to her defense, and so did I. And then all of a sudden, he like pulls out a knife. So then the other guy runs back in his tent. He brings out brass knuckles, mace, and a gun,
What?
and starts chasing him. So then I follow him, and I'm filming the entire time, saying, "Oh my god!" Because the fact is, I didn't want the guy shot even after he punched a girlfriend. I just wanted him in jail, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, let's just hope this doesn't lead to a shooting. So about a block away, he gets maced. All of a sudden, he looked at me and started chasing with a knife, and then lunged at me and tried to get my neck.
Holy crap.
So then I ran across the freeway. And these are cars going 70 miles an hour, right?
Jeez.
He's chasing me the entire time. I ended in the middle of the freeway near that little island, and we were running around the pole where he kept. It's funny.
I've
it's
seen the
terrifying.
video. It's
This is like a movie scene.
So he
can't
kept,
wait till it gets released.
So he kept swiping, trying to get my neck, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. So finally, I kept running across the freeway, and I ran into a restaurant, and he stopped immediately. And then about 10 minutes later, someone else had called the police because they had witnessed what happened. He got arrested and went to jail, thank God.
Wow. So he was still aware not to do it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was like the line for him.
And I believe, because it was like crowded, bare minimum, yeah, with 30 people, there's no way. And luckily he stopped.
Yeah.
So then Choe and I returned to the scene of the crime, and we talked to and interviewed the people, and we actually shook his hand and said, thank you, because this other guy maced him, saying, what are you doing? Don't do this. And so they were actually trying to protect us and others, saying that's not okay what you just did.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so it's just, it's
well, have fun down there tonight.
it's going to be a little more dangerous because, of course, not only is it
cover of
dark in there,
darkness.
now it's cover of darkness.
Is it that dark?
Yes. Even during the day, if you don't have a powerful flashlight, you walk in 10, 20 feet.
Holy crap.
It's pitch black.
I was in the middle of the tunnels, a couple hours ago, and we turned out our flashlights. Pitch darkness.
Dude. So
Pitch
if your battery
darkness.
dies, you're fucked.
Yeah, bring him back up.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, you get lost too because it's like a labyrinth down there.
Oh, it's not one like.
No.
No, it opens up
a
into
lot.
Oh, shit.
different
So-
tunnels.
Think of it like a spider web.
Wow.
You go in, all of a sudden it goes boom, and you just kind of get lost.
It's like door A, door B,
Jeez.
door C,
That
And
is
so you-
D,
sketch.
E.
So you have to be kind of have some directional awareness to not get lost.
Yeah.
Usually, what I'll do is because there seems to be service in most spots, you take a photo and GPS yourself. So if you get lost, you can be like, "All right, this is where I was,"
smart.
and then you know where to go.
Or breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs would work
Leave some breadcrumbs.
Yeah, as long as the rats don't eat it.
Or just follow the trail of blood.
Yeah, we'll see what after this collaboration Kevin and I will do, because we primarily focus on the homeless drug crisis in America. We're going to be going to LA most likely, covers some of the insanity coming out of Skid Row. I mean, we know for a fact there are illegals who are living in tents and RVs. So
Wow.
it's just insanity. It's a free for all out there. But I believe this coming year we're going to continue to see a lot of social unrest. As you know, I cover these Antifa riots across the country, and fraud is still going to be a big issue. I mean, Nick Shirley, credit to him, he's our industry friend. We love him. He just scratched the surface, though.
That's scary.
Yeah, there's so many more stories about fraud, and if there's anybody running for office, I mean, I would make fraud, rooting it out, one of your pillars, because there is so much waste, fraud, and abuse happening that we need somebody to really champion this, to expose what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, my focus has always been the homeless industrial complex. This multi-billion-dollar industry that is not producing results. That's my problem. I'd be more okay spending a lot of money if you're actually helping individuals, meaning that slowly over time the crisis decreases, but it's increasing. And so what you see over even the last 10 years, as the homeless crisis increases, so does the budget. What's supposed to happen is this, right? Is the more money you spend, the more effective you are. But we've proven that money is not the solution.
Yeah, and Sean, for your audience, anyone listening, watching, who wants to get into this space to, at the very least, volunteer or help out, I think the telltale sign when you're choosing a nonprofit to work with is, will they show you measurable results and outcomes? Believe it or not, the vast majority of these nonprofits that work in the homelessness space, they're not required. Once they get the federal funding, they're not required to show the results.
So it goes to payroll and
Exactly.
It's all
Payroll
about
expenses,
transparency.
overhead.
Ask the difficult questions and how comfortable are they at answering that, they're the ones you want to work with, the ones who are like very open about what's actually going on, right?
Yeah.
But a high percentage will shut down immediately when you start asking difficult questions.
That's awful.
And that is a red flag.
Yeah. Do you guys have a list of verified charities or organizations?
We have a mental list of programs that we like, but the fact is there's very few of them.
Right. I mean, I would just say in Seattle, groups that we work with.
Yesterday.
We Heart Seattle is an outreach group that we give shout outs to all the time. And also some of the faith-based groups like Union Gospel Mission. They do an incredible job. I mean, they're just there consistently on the streets.
Generally speaking, faith-based programs are doing solid work because they're doing it for the right reasons.
Right,
because for
right.
them, it's a cause, right?
It's a calling.
It's a calling.
Yeah.
They believe in what they're doing, and that's huge.
And a lot of them aren't beholden to federal dollars. It's privately funded. So that's another key, right? Is the organization receiving taxpayer dollars, or is it privately funded? So
and in Vegas, we're impressed with Vegas Stronger.
yeah, Vegas Stronger's doing
Shout
a
out to
tremendous
them.
job. Yeah, they're doing a great job. They're really the only ones on the front lines doing this.
We've hung out the last 2 days. We're very impressed. I mean, I think they're doing some really solid work, and that's nice to hear that there's a little bit of a shining light in Vegas.
Yeah. We'll link them in the video. Thanks for coming on, gentlemen.
Yeah, Sean, thanks.
Yeah.
Glad we finally did it.
Absolutely. Pleasure, guys. Check them out, guys. We'll put their social media handles in the link. Peace. If you learned anything from this episode or got any value at all, please share this episode with a friend. It helps us grow the channel. It helps us grow the podcast, and it means a lot to us. Thank you so much.